The Health and Social Care Academy helps to shape the future of health and social care. It creates a space for collaborative thinking, the sharing of evidence and learning, and promoting the voice of lived experience. The Academy's 5 ambitions set out the conditions for achieving long-term, meaningful and sustainable change. This series aims to highlight how the ambitions can be applied in action. Be human. We are all human and should be treated with dignity. Everyone can thrive if our rights are protected, defended and promoted. Reach Advocacy helps to support a culture where human rights are at the centre through the delivery of education and training. Raising awareness of rights and making them accessible empowers everyone to claim their rights.
The SQA accredited award, which is called the Reach Advocacy Practice Award, and essentially that award is for people who are involved in advocacy or people who work around areas where human rights or advocating for somebody might be important. So we have candidates from across Scotland who are taking part in the accredited training, and this happens over a 3-month period. So they do some intensive study with a tutor one-on-one and develop written work based on their experience with advocacy and human rights.
So for me, I thought I really knew a lot about human rights, but actually the training just gave me a much sort of broader understanding of what human rights is, you know, the legislation behind it, how it links with like the social determinants of health and health inequalities, so it really sort of brought all of that together.
One of the biggest learning points that I took is to do 2 frameworks, which is FAIR and panel. These were kind of revelations for me in terms of not only what I do call the perspective, the lens of human rights, but also in learning how to prepare someone's, you might call it a summary of needs or a summary of rights.
That's what really made it real for me, because I could then see this sort of step-by-step approach and actually how that linked then to my practice. So thinking through, you know, have people been involved and participated in, you know, our decision-making processes? Are we accountable? Has there been any sort of discrimination? So, you know, that sort of step-by-step panel principles really for me made it feel real and accessible.
I think the biggest thing that's missing is awareness and knowledge of rights to begin with. We also see a lot of people who think human rights aren't for them, or that they aren't people who, you know, have rights. There's a lot of stigma and issues that can be barriers for individuals to think that human rights actually relate to what they do and their experiences. So I think a big part of claiming rights is knowing that they exist, but also breaking down some of those barriers, whether they're systemic or self-imposed, that keep people from being able to access rights in the first place.
I think I knew about human rights, but actually when you go through the training you realise much more. You learn about human rights in a much greater you know, level, and so I think people understanding and being educated about what their rights are, and actually if people feel that their rights are not being upheld, well, what can you do about that? What's the role of advocacy and other people in helping support and uphold rights?